Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex here. Today we are here with round number 8 of the Go-Kart Championship in 2015. This is qualifying. 3 of us here today. James in the yellow and black overalls, Will in the blue overalls and the white helmet, and then obviously you got me in the blue overalls and the blue helmet. Left hand side of the screen is James's camera. And obviously, even though there's 3 of us here, I would still expect a good racing because we've all won races so far this year. Both Will and James won races in the same weekend, and obviously I've won races. I've won 4 races so far this year as well. So, yeah, not too bad of a 3-person grid, but obviously I'd prefer to have more people on the races. But unfortunately, not everyone can get together at the same time to do these races. So, I understand it, and I've got my fingers crossed because lots of people have said yes to be able to do the next one, round number 9. So let's hope that all works out, and hopefully we can have a lot of people for round number 9. I mean, obviously this year we haven't exactly had the biggest 2 grids. I think, was it the biggest grid we've had is 7? I mean, let's hope we can at least equal that for the next round, because about 10 people have said, they can come. So hopefully, we can at least get 7 or 8 people going round go-karting next time. And obviously you guys will be seeing that up in about 3 weeks' time. But overall, yeah, I've been, happy with the season so far. In general, I mean, I don't know. In my personal opinion, it's not as good as last year. Even though I've had points, I've got more points than I had last year. I've had less wins, I think, at this point of the season than I did last year as well. So, I mean, I suppose also I can say I did win the sort of was it 3 races on the bounce towards the end of the last season. So maybe I've got that. Maybe I've hopefully got that towards the end of this season. I don't know, but. I've got 4 wins after round number 7. Is it going to be possible to get, equal my 9 wins from last year over the season? It's going to be quite tough. We'll see. But anyway, you can see on my side of the screen here, I decided to back off because I was basically just catching James up here. So I thought, let's just back up a bit here, give me a bit of space. I mean, it's all, well and good to follow James here, but I wasn't sure whether I was faster than him or not. So we'll just see. Hopefully I am faster than him after backing off that much, but yeah, we'll see. So yeah, looking forward to the races here today, but I was still a bit unsure about the go-kart and James as well, because you saw Will got a good start and he's just rocketed off into the distance, and I know he's probably the best person that we've had in this championship, but I'm not sure whether he's that good. He was pulling away about 1.5–2 seconds a lap over me and James. So yeah, at this point I was like, okay, I think Will's got both these wins in the bag already. So at that point I was just like, let's try and get a good time to beat James here to 2nd place on the grid. I mean, obviously I won't be able to get the points to pole, but seeing that pace that Will's got, it's going to be tough. So I was obviously still hoping that I've got good enough times in me to try and qualify on pole. But obviously you guys know, if you've been watching this channel and the series, the Go-Kart Championship, over the last 1.5 years, you guys will know that the go-karts are never equal. They try their best to make them as equal as possible, but sometimes it's just impossible. Sometimes there is big gaps between the best and the worst kart on the grid. So sometimes you could be driving a go-kart which is 2 seconds faster than the slower go-kart on the track. So that's just how it is, and that's just what you got to just deal with. But over the whole season, it should equal itself out. But I would say myself, I seem to have had more bad karts than good karts so far this year. But hopefully that luck will come towards me towards the end of the year, and maybe I can get some better go karts towards the end of the season. We'll see, but I'm not sure. I mean, let's just keep our fingers crossed with all those good luck things. So yeah, after this, obviously we'll have 4 rounds to go. So into the last third of the season after this round here, so I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I can't mathematically win the championship this round, but obviously as my dad isn't racing here today, I might mathematically be able to win it in round number 9. We'll see, depending on all of the results go my way. We might be able to win it in round number 9, which actually would be a round earlier than I won it last year. But you could say this year, in terms of sort of the attendance to the races, I think everyone on average has done less races, so it's been obviously a bit easier for me to build up a points lead. And I talked about it in the last episode, and it's something that I'm really, gonna try next year, is just making sure we can at least get 6 or so people each and every round, because in all honesty, go-karting is obviously a lot of fun, but it's probably not worth everyone, just say 3 or 4 people turn up, it's probably not worth the money just to go out and race between us, because you don't generally get really good racing between 3 or 4 people. I'd say you normally want at least 6, because then you could have the reverse grid race, which normally throws up a bit of a interesting, crazy result. So yeah, that's what I was sort of aiming for next season. Obviously I would have wanted it this season, but things haven't exactly gone how I wanted, and I think this season, we've gone go-karting quite a bit, like a couple of weeks after each other. I mean, you guys obviously see this 3 weeks after the last race, and I schedule it out, but in reality we've actually been doing quite a lot of these races in succession, like 2 weeks gap between the races. So yeah, we're sort of getting through the rounds quite quickly here, and I don't know, personally I'm finding it a little bit boring actually, just going around by myself and not having much of a battle. So what I think is we'll try and do our best for the rest of the season to get big grids, and then we'll take a bit of a breather, do that winter championship. Not too sure how we're going to do that, but we'll do that over the winter break, and we'll just see how we do with that. Anyway, that's the end of qualifying. As you can see, there's the results. But yeah, we're going to try our best for next season to make sure we can get good grids throughout the whole year. So as you can see, not exactly the greatest qualifying for me, but Will does get the points for the fastest lap in qualifying there. He gets those 5 points, and that'll help him towards his championship bid. I think he can't win the championship now, because he's only done 1 round so far this year, and I've obviously done 7 so far. But yeah, I think it's mathematically impossible for him to win, even if I don't do the rest of the races. But yeah, you can see a good start there from James. But Will obviously trying to capitalise here, trying to maybe get that most wins or most pole positions trophy, because now that means Will's got 2 pole positions, I've got 4, so he can still beat me there in that championship sort of battle there. We'll see how that all plays out, who knows. But always quite close there between Will and James. James just keeps in front there, but you can see already I've had a bad start, and I've already dropped back here. But Will in a straight line, he can't quite get past James. James is obviously very light, so he's fast in a straight line there. But Will did say to me, and James after qualifying, his kart was like literally perfect for Will, and his go-kart was probably like the best way he's ever driven. So I mean, I suppose that's good for him, I suppose. But obviously it's not as easy for me and James here to try and combat that. I mean, James has got a straight line speed, and I really don't have anything that I can combat having a really fast kart with here, because you can see I've already dropped back here. I'm not close enough to capitalise on any moves that Will does make. So top hairpin once again, James defends from Will, and he's trying to go around the outside there, Will, but he's not going to be able to get around the outside there. I don't think we've actually had an overtake around the outside there. So yeah, James gets very sideways there, but luckily he avoids a spin, and he runs wide there. He runs wide as Will. Yeah, Will, you can see he's down the inside there. You can see on my point of view of my side of the screen as well, James is running side by side with Will here, but James, he should have the straight line advantage here, and he's pulled back in front of Will here to defend for another lap out to the hairpin. Misses the apex, gets a bit sideways once again, but he still defends that lead, and you can see I'm trying all I can here to close down the gap, but it's just not possible. I just can't close down that gap on my side of the screen. But let's be honest, the more interesting is the left hand side of the screen here with James here. Has he got he's left a gap there, but Will can't capitalise on it once again. So once again it's going to be down the straight here. Will be able to go down the inside here at the top hairpin. James is going to brake late. Is he always gone a little bit wide there, but he keeps the position once again. This is a good tactic here from James. I mean, obviously sort of slowing him up through the slower part of the track, then down the straight. He's getting a good, or trying to get a good exit out of this turn right here, but he's gone wide this time, and it looks like that's a big enough gap for Will to put his car down the inside there, running side by side. So with James's straight line advantage, can he get around the outside? No, he can't, but Will's going to have to go defensive now up to the top hairpin. You can see there's that pace advantage down the straight, but Will was talking about his go-kart being very good, and I think that sort of showed there, because even though James obviously has that straight line advantage from being lighter, he couldn't get past Will, who was very fast in a straight line there, even though he had a compromised line obviously from going tighter through the corner. But now Will has the lead. Can James, or maybe can I, get enough of an advantage to get back on Will here? But look, Will's already got an advantage here, but about half a second already here, so it's going to be tough for anyone to overhaul Will here for the win of this race. He got the pole position, obviously, so you'd sort of expect him to be in the lead this race here, but obviously James gets that really good start, so he managed to capitalise on that and lead for the first 3 or 4, maybe it was even 5 or 6 laps actually there. But Will has the advantage now, and he's probably just going to keep pulling away. So at this point I was like, well, James is not going to be, doing the defensive line anymore, so I'm going to have to be a bit, more creative with the ways I can catch him up here. Like, can I just get a tenth of a second there? Can I just get a tenth of a second there? So that's my aim. And I was sort of seeing James run quite wide at some of the corners, so I was like, this could be possible here to get the overtake done. But you can see I've dropped it back a little bit over the last couple of laps since. Oh, James getting very sideways. These saw him, soaring at the wheel to keep it in a straight line. Doesn't look like James has much rear end grip there. Looks like he slides around quite a bit. I just didn't have any front end grip. I couldn't hit the apex at the top corner. You'll see. You look to the right hand side of the screen here, going up to the top hairpin, and I actually did have this massive sort of cut on the tyre. You can see I'm trying to hit the apex there. I mean, I think I just about got it there, but I had this really big sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, like a lock up and I don't know, a skid mark on the tyre, and it's sort of worn down to the canvas. So yeah, it was a bit worrying when I stepped in the go-kart for the first time. I saw that the tyre was worn down to the canvas on the right hand side, I think, of the tyre. And I posted a picture up it on my Instagram actually as well. So if you want to go and see that, there's probably a link down in the description. But you can see here, slightly missing the apex once again. I mean, it really shows in race number 2 when that sort of mark on my tyre just grows and grows and grows. And obviously, when that sort of bit grows where it's worn down to the canvas, that's less, part of the tyre is actually gripping to the road. So when there's less part of the tyre gripping to the road, you're more likely to slip wide, obviously, and go, obviously over to the side of the track because you just can't turn in. James does seem to have a similar problem actually, but it seems to be more that his rear tyres aren't very grippy actually, more than his front tyres. So your choice, which is worse, having no grip on the front tyres or more less grip on the rear tyres, we'll see. But yeah, you can definitely see here James not having too much grip around the corners, and Will is just flown off into the distance here. At this point I was actually worried, it's like, am I going to get lapped? I mean, I've only ever been lapped once, and that was when my go-kart actually had his tyre, its wheel like fell off, and that's the only time I've ever been lapped. And I was like, is this going to happen again? Are we going to get lapped again? And I was so surprised at Will's speed here. I mean, we look at, I'll tell you the qualifying times, we haven't got the piece of paper to sort of prove it, but in qualifying, Will got a 29.8 second lap time, which is about average, maybe a little bit faster than average for him. Probably about actually what he normally does. But then you go to second place, James, 31.0 seconds, I think it was. So he's 1.2 seconds slower a lap than Will. And then you go back to me, I was, I think, a 31.2. I was like, what? How have we lost this time all of a sudden? I normally do low 1 minute, sorry, not 1 minute 30. I do low 30-second lap times normally. Sometimes break into the 29s. Sort of on that borderline. Same with James as well. He's sort of on that sort of lap time as well. High 29s, low 30s, and then we were like, what? Over a second. I was like about 1.5 seconds slower than Will a lap on his fastest lap. I was like, how is this possible? And I was like, okay, this car obviously just has no grip. And once we'll see in the second race as well, you'll see a bit of comparison between me and Will, obviously, in that second race, because in the reverse grid, obviously, I'm going to be starting on the front right at this point, because unless Will spins off and has a big crash, I'm going to be on the front row because I started obviously in third. I finished in third place. That means I'll be at least in the front row. So yeah, I mean, if I finish second or third in this race, I'm going to be on the front row of the grid. So we'll see that pace sort of advantage, I suppose, with James as well. But James has the slight advantage of being quite a lot lighter than me, so I suppose that does help. Maybe a bit more aero efficient as well because he's not as tall. But anyway, we're getting towards the end of this race here, actually, just over 2.5 minutes to go, so about 5 laps, I'd say. And I'm not really closing down James, am I? And I talked to Will about this after the race. I was like, it was just like, they talk about it in Formula 1, don't they? Some, you know, from time to time. It's like the elastic band effect, where, you know, you think you're closing in some laps, and you go back a couple other laps. So it stretches, the gap stretches sometimes out, stretches back in, and I just couldn't, you know, close enough to be in the slipstream of James. But I never lost sight of him in this first race. You can see I'm always within sight of him here in this first race of round number 8, and at this point I was like, am I just going to be third place in both these races? And I was really disappointed with the pace, but you know, you win some, you lose some, and at this point I was like, we're going to get points for the championship here, and this could pretty much confirm me as champion. I mean, I'm going to be hopefully doing all of the rest of the rounds, but you know, I want to score as many points as possible here, unless, you know, in case something does come up and I can't make the last couple of rounds. I mean, I have made all of the races so far over the last 1.5 years, but you know, sometimes I might have to, you know, not be able to turn up, so always try my best when I'm there, because you never know whether you're going to be able to make it to the next race. That's sort of the mentality I was having, really, is just try and bring it home here. So yeah, pretty boring race, I'm not gonna lie, guys, since the first 5 laps where Will was battling with James. But apart from that, there really hasn't been much going on, has there? You know, you've seen me try and keep up with James, but not really be able to do it, and James pretty much just putting in good lap times, and Will putting in really good lap times, just pulling away from all of us. It was such a big margin. I'll tell you what it was at the end of the race between me and James and Will, but it's just absolutely crazy how fast he was here today. But you know, he's shown over his 1.5 years in the championship. Obviously he hasn't been able to make a majority of the rounds, but the ones that he has been able to make, he has been incredibly fast, and it's not surprising. I mean, he has actually won sort of proper go-kart championships in the past. I mean, do you call this proper? I don't know, I call it a friendly go-kart championship myself, but Will's actually won like proper championships in like proper karts without the, you know, the surrounding, what would you call it, the part of the, you know, you can see around the car, around the front wheels, it's got a bit of plastic to protect it, so if you have an accident it doesn't really damage the car. But you know, in proper go-karts they don't have that sort of stuff. So yeah, he's won proper go-kart championships, and you know, by big margins as well. So he's done good in his go-kart history. So yeah, I always knew that, you know, he was going to be fast. I've known him for quite, you know, a few years now, and I've obviously known since I started, you know, talking to him like way back in the secondary school, that he was always interested in go-karts, and I realised he did go-karting as well. I was like, oh god, when you ever go-karting, I'm going to get absolutely destroyed, aren't I, with all those sort of records that he's got. But yeah, I've proved a couple of times that I've been able to beat him, but I think more than less, I've actually finished behind him. But anyway, that is the end of the race, round number 1, race number 1 I should say. Will wins, James in second, I'm in third, and actually the gap between Will and James after the end of that race was, I think, 12 seconds. Yeah, it was pretty crazy, wasn't it? But let's get into race number 2 with the reverse grid. I start on pole position, that means with James in second place, and the lights are out and away we go. James gets a rocket of a start once again, but as does Will. You can see there, not quite as good as James off the start finish line, but pretty good, and pretty terrible I am that far behind, aren't I? That should never happen, should it? And Will drops back behind me. I think he ran a bit wide in that first turn. They're not too sure whether he was just letting me through or not, but yeah, you can see James has already got a massive advantage on me here. And at this point, I'm like, great, because I can't close down that gap without any help of a slipstream or anything. Slipstream will help a little bit, but that little bit could help a lot, because pretty much in that first race you saw me and James were like exactly the same pace, and I was like, okay, a weird slipstream, we could help us out here. But look at this, Will, as soon as he gets into a straight line, I pretty much just let him pass. There's no point fighting him. You can see, look, the front grip, look at that! Look how fast Will is out of that corner. He instantly gains there like 3 or 4 kart lengths. And this is, I think, the corner where you see it the most here. He slides a little bit here, but look at that speed out the corner here. What? How is that? Like, how are these equal karts? Let's just say that. It got me a bit frustrated when I saw how much faster his kart was. I don't think it's that his kart was that much better than normal. It's just that my kart was terrible, and I think that really did show in this second race here. You can see I've already lost a huge amount of time. and you know, it's only like a couple of corners, isn't it, really, since he overtook me there. So yeah, not good whatsoever for me to lose that much time. But across the start finish line, you can see Will's nearly caught James here. There was just like a 3-second gap, and he's nearly caught him in one lap. It's absolutely crazy here, but it also shows, you know, how fast Will is as a driver as well. You know, capitalising on having that fast car. I'm not complaining or moaning at Will for being, you know, fast. I'm sort of obviously just a bit annoyed that my car's obviously not as good as the others, but. Yeah, I mean, you can, you know, I'm sure somebody in the comments going to say, "Oh, you're just not as good a driver." But you know, I've beaten Will in races in the past, and you don't suddenly lose 2 seconds worth of pace over a lap, just like that, do you? It's got to be down to the car quite a bit. But anyway, we definitely need to look to the left-hand side of the screen for the most of the end of this race now, because James is going to be defending really hard on keeping Will behind him here, because this could be another good win for Will here, and that puts him onto 3 wins if he does that. And then that makes me slightly worried, because obviously Will will most likely be able to do 3 at least of the last 4 rounds, and that gets me slightly worried that I might not be so easy with my most wins and most pole position trophy here. I mean, last year I did it quite easily. The most wins, I got 9 wins, I think, and the next most was 4 from Will. And the pole positions last year I got 6, and the next most was 2, which was my dad and Will as well. So yeah, the pole position one maybe sort of, I got one hand on that trophy, but definitely not the most wins trophy, because you know, we've still got 8 races to go, and if Will can easily win 6 of them, you know, to add to the ones he's got already, it's put a big, you know, task on my hands there. I mean, he could win all the races he does. I mean, it's quite unlikely, you'd say, especially if we have a big grid for the next race. It's pretty much impossible to win from last place in the grid, but never say never. That's the attitude I have. I'm sure it's the same sort of attitude that Will and James have as well. You never give up on, you know, just because you're starting near the back, it doesn't mean that you can't get a good result. So yeah, you can see James going defensive. He's looking at where Will is, and you know, Will doesn't make the overtake here. But I just want to have a quick look at my side of the screen here for a second, guys, the right hand side of the screen here, because look at the hairpin up here. It's a random lap here. I'm trying to get to the apex, and I just can't get it turned in there up that top corner. It gets worse and worse throughout the race there. I suppose that one wasn't actually that bad, but some of the laps in this race, I was just like, ugh, blimey, this car doesn't want to steer in whatsoever here. So yeah, obviously that is not ideal, but you'll see when that happens how bad I am through that top hairpin. But still, James fending off Will here for this win. Can he maybe get it? That'd be interesting to see him get this win, actually, especially obviously doesn't have a better car here, so we'll see. But James at the moment still in the lead of this race. Sorry, I just had to have a quick drink of water there, because after doing like 22 minutes worth of commentary, your voice does get a bit sore here. So you know, if you quick tip for any YouTube commentators out there, always have a bottle of water handy, because if you do a longer commentary, or maybe have to do a lot of takes on a commentary, your voice does start to hurt. So yeah, I always have my bottle of water there just in case. But anyway, getting back to the racing here, you can see top hairpin missing that apex once again, but James still defending from Will. He's done a very good drive so far. I mean, we are, I'd say, about halfway through this race now, and James has driven very well so far this race, because he's kept Will behind him, using obviously that straight line advantage that James has well, because he's, you know, going defensive at the top. Hairpin goes a bit wide here, and Will, oh, as we talk about it, Will gets through here. He makes the move stick, and he's ahead of James now. James has to overtake him, you know, right now pretty much, if he wants to have any chance of this race win, because, oh, Will runs wide. Will's run wide, and James has got the overlap now. They're going to run side by side. Will has maybe a bit of an advantage in the go-kart, but he doesn't turn into the corner there, as he might not have had a full overlap here. But down the back straight here, let's see, look at that speed that Will has in the straight line there, even though James is lighter. Up to the top hairpin, James turns in a bit of a block pass there as he slid out wide, and he gets the position, and he's back into the lead of the race there. And you know, I was actually watching Will and James battle it out throughout this race as well, because, you know, obviously my race wasn't too fun, so I was watching them battle it out and squabble, and I was surprised to see James get back past Will there with a good overtake at that. Well, you know, I sort of call it the final turn, even though it really isn't. But yeah, he got a good move there. He got back underneath Will and back into the lead this race. Top hairpin. Oh, James has run a bit deep there. Will can't get the overlap this time, and he's still right behind, behind him, pressuring. You can see James hasn't got exactly the most stable car. I think the rear tyres are starting to go off. You can see he's sliding slightly through the corners as well, and he can't sometimes get the kart turned into all the corners how he'd want, I'd say. So yeah, James doing a really good job here, and I'm watching on envious of having a battle like that. Hopefully in the next round, round number 9, hopefully we can have a good battle like that ourselves. And I'm thinking in the next round we might actually have 4 camera views, because Tim's coming as well next time. I mean, obviously he's won 4 of the 6 races he's done this season. Tim's coming to the next round, and he has his own sort of camera as well, so we might actually have 4 different points of view, depending on whether everyone else is alright to have the cameras on their heads as well. So we'll see how that all ends up, but we might have 4 different perspectives for this next round after this, which would be very interesting, not gonna lie. So James still defending. He's done a really good job this race, hasn't he, of just defending from Will. Maybe you could say Will in that first race, he won by such a margin. Maybe he's just wanting to have a bit of fun in this race and try and overtake when he can. But obviously James has that advantage in a straight line. So, well, I suppose he has the weight advantage, but actually the advantage today really in a straight line has Will, because he's got a better kart. So top hairpin, James doesn't actually fully defend there. There was a kart gap there, so Will was close enough. He could have got through there, but I don't think he was quite close enough into the top hairpin. But he is. You saw on my side of the screen briefly there how close it really is between them two for this win of the race here. And obviously both James and Will have only done 1 round so far this season. So Will has 32 points, James has 23. So both of them obviously want to get good points, and they're going to get good points, because let's be honest, there's only 3 of us here, and I'm going to finish in 3rd place. I think that's a foregone conclusion here because of how far back I am. So both of them should move up the points a little bit here. We'll see what the points are at the end of the video, but it definitely looks like both James and Will be going up the order. It sounds so stupid, doesn't it? Will be going up the order. I don't know how to say it without just sounding a bit weird, but yeah, looks like Will once again trying to go for the attack, but James defends. Was that the kart alongside briefly there? I'm not too sure in James's camera shot, but once again he's defending, he's just defending, and that's all he needs to do here, because he can pretty much defend in a straight line. So it's just through the twisty part in the middle that he needs to keep it cool and keep it on the track here. But I'm surprised actually, where has James found his pace from in this second race, or am I just slower? I'm not too sure, because I'm not sure whether I just dropped off my pace throughout this race because I couldn't see someone right in front of me, so there wasn't that sort of desire to sort of chase them down or whatever, and maybe that really sort of meant that in this second race here that I just couldn't keep the pace up. I'm not too sure. We didn't actually get the lap times for this second race, so we're not actually sure about who actually was it. James going faster, or was it me just going slower? We never got that information, so we don't know. But it looks like James actually has got faster, because he's managed to defend from Will quite well in this race. So I think this could be the last lap of the race here, and James only got a couple more corners to go to take a second win of the season, to go equal on wins with Will actually. Final corner, he's left a gap. Can Will go alongside? Well, no, he can't. And up to the start finish line, there's the checker flag. James wins the second race of round number 8. A little bit of a nod there from Will saying well done, and I've still got a couple of corners to go, and for me obviously really disappointing. I mean, I get 2 third places, but it equals my lowest points ever finish in the Go-Kart Championship, so I crossed the line there to bring home a couple more points, and that's how the race 2 ended up. Obviously James winning over Will, and then I'm in 3rd place. But then look at the championship standings. As my dad didn't race in that round, I move 115 points clear of him with 140 left available, so I've got a decent chance of wrapping up the championship next time out, especially if my dad doesn't come. He's still a bit unsure whether he is going to come to that next round. So he's on 101, then Tom on 81, Tim on 79, both of them obviously not racing that round. Will on 64, so he's jumped above Harry there in that, and Harry's still in. Well, Harris in 6th place there, with James in 7th place, only 1 point behind him. Tom L, obviously, he got his win last time out, and I think he told me he will be back for the next round. So he's still on 25 points. Job on 22, Harry's Dad on 21, and Will's Dad on 18. So that's how it is for this round, guys. Thanks for watching once again. I'll see you in about 3 weeks' time for more go-kart action. Spinax, I'm out of here. Goodbye.